Hello and welcome to our channel Nurture Might, where we provide informative videos regarding health and lifestyle. Please like, share and subscribe the channel and click on the bell icon for important notification and videos.
Complete report on COVID-19. This video contains about India's situation now and after, the USA's current situation and future of the USA, why top nations failed in containment, information about vaccine, mask, testing techniques, etc. Don't make a lag and jump into this interesting video. Present scenario in India and what can we expect in future. Note, all the statistics and numbers provided in this article are up to date as June 14, 2020 and all the information provided is for only educational purpose. Relaxation from lockdown. Is this a good news to hear? The Indian government announced Lockdown 5.0, which allows not only essential services but everything except crowd gathering places like colleges, school institute, etc. As in India, by today, COVID-19 confirmed cases crossed 3,20,000 mark with over 1,50,000 active cases, 1,60,000 recovered cases and 9,204 deaths so far. On the other hand, the recovery rate has improved significantly with 49.4%. Following the stats of COVID-19 cases, India ramps up efforts to contain COVID-19 spread, but the exact thing we need to know is Indian government is gradually raising its hand because as we see for the first lockdown declared in India on March 25, the Indian government took very good initiative and they contained the COVID-19 up to some extent, but slowly the COVID-19 cases are increasing because there is some movement and some relaxation in India. But now the movement activities are so high and by stats that every day COVID-19 cases are increasing like every day there will be 11,000 plus positive cases. However, recovery rate is rising slowly. We are losing our grip on containment. And next, the transportation is among the worst hit by COVID-19 and within that, aviation has been hit the hardest. For March, India's domestic air passenger traffic fell by 11.8 compared with the corresponding month last year. Even now, also international travel into the country are well banned. Here, international travels are the biggest reason for this situation we currently facing because the initial COVID-19 cases are all come alone from the international passenger who entered into India. This lockdown relaxation will help daily wage worker and daily wage business owners because due to this lockdown, no one comes out and starts their work like hotels, fruit shops, grocery stores, etc. But from now, they can reinitiate their work and they can successfully lead their lives as before. This may be earn some money to them, but they should take care of themselves because recently we heard so many people got infected to coronavirus after this lockdown because of a lack of control in individuals. Recently, India crossed China in COVID-19 confirmed cases and we should bother about this rate milestone because China is the world's most populous country in the world. And it successfully contained the COVID-19 whether the virus is made in China lab or it naturally outbursts. China also experiences COVID-19 cases and deaths too. It contains the deadly virus spread in their country in a few months, but the big question is that can India will contain coronavirus from their land or not? On the other hand, India's economy falls Although Prime Minister releases a 20 lakh crore packages by some name to contain this virus and avoid this pandemic situation. But now, the Indian government made some huge relaxation from lockdown due to the fall of the Indian economy, and there is no need to oppose government because in this pandemic situation, every step is worthy and we Indians should value our government's decision. The lockdown is easing in several parts of the country and non-essential shops are getting back in business. But after having to shut shop for close to 3 months, it can never be business as usual. Retailers have returned to markets where people can no longer crowd into shops. Whether eager shoppers want to window shopping and jam-packed malls are a thing of past. The organized retail sector has borne losses to the tune of rupees 90,000 crores in the last 2 months. Revenues have been nil, but expenses continue to mount. EMIs, rent, maintenance, staff salaries, etc. Now, the main obstacle for the government is the economic growth and position of India in the world nations, but human lives are also so precious. The government is doing its best to people and nation's growth, but this is not the time to dominate the economy over human lives. On the whole, we should think about our future. In some days, total relaxation will be provided and everything will be as same as a pre-lockdown situation. But we should move on with this deadly virus. One should take care of himself and his or her neighbors, and mainly one should be scared of this virus and its spread. By today, India is the 7th country with most COVID-19, and it's just beginning because we are the world's 2nd most populous country, and as like the USA, Brazil, etc., we are going to enter the community transmission stage soon. And if we're going to experience that, then it will be the most worst situation. So individually, one should contain from him or her, and one should feel most responsible towards other in the society. On the final note, the future of India is going to decline in all aspects, as after the lockdown, India's economy was the worst hit aspect, and also lethality rate will be high. But there is a hope to the nation that all other major nations like Japan, USA, Brazil, etc. are going to withdraw their operations from China and their largest alternative in India. So after this pandemic, India can emerge as a super nation, and India also making very healthy relationship with these nations. So all aspects can lead to better future to India. But during this session, every nation must experience fall in the economy. This all offers can be beneficial, but the human lives should not be the cost of those. For the government makes all necessary action and decisions. The only way to save our country and our lives is to control ourselves, and one must contain themselves to the spread, and every individual should be scared of this infection, because nowadays all are going out and making all the works which are non-essential too. This type of situation should be avoided. The main step to follow is every Indian must and should take care of his neighbor or his contacts. Then only this situation can be normalized and India's future can be enjoyed by all people. Current status and future of United States of America in this pandemic. America's world's most powerful country in all aspects, and now the country with most COVID-19 confirmed cases, and it stood first in the list with over 117,000 deaths. Why the country with all facilities and the already developed nation does not contain this infectious spread. America facing the worst situation in its country's history, because in the USA, the COVID-19 spread went into level 4 transmission, means community community transmission. It was the worst stage of the spread of this infection, and the USA is experiencing this, and we can see its results in the stats of world's COVID-19 cases. The USA also implemented and announced lockdowns, but as same as other nations, it works up to some extent, and the fear of the nation's economy fall makes the relaxation in the lockdown and makes people more comfortable to move and participate in necessary work. The present situation of America is also very worst, as we know that the death of George Floyd in the protest raises more activities in public, and which leads to more movement in the public. And recently, we got a piece of news that George having COVID-19 before its death means in the USA its spread was asymbiotic. One can judge himself that he does not have COVID-19 virus, and by the time of knowing that he was positive for this infection, he or she makes more and more activities, and that leads to even more and rapid spread of COVID-19 in the country. The government of the world's most powerful nation is also raising its hand in this pandemic situation, that they are going to face situations like lack of ventilators, lack of beds for patients. The government shifted the responsibility of human life to the individuals, means one should take care of himself and his or her contacts. US President Donald Trump stated that this situation will be going on until they can succeed in the vaccine. Up to one should save their own life, and one should responsible for the infection spread, because in the USA the deaths caused by this virus crosses 1,17,000, and this number is not stopping any soon, and it will increases rapidly due to more traffic in the people. The government and America's failed in this crisis and pandemic situation. In Italy, no one took COVID-19 as serious, as it results in 800 to 900 deaths per day, and its government failure. The USA also, much like Italy, but the USA contains this spread well in its first phase, but day by day it taking hands apart from it, and it makes the country situation worse. As a result, they are facing this situation. The coronavirus is spreading from America's biggest cities to its suburbs and has begun encroaching on the nation's rural regions. The virus is believed to have infected millions of citizens and has killed more than 1 lakh. Yet, President Donald Trump this past week proposed guidelines for reopening the economy and suggested that a swath of the United States would soon resume something resembling normalcy. More than 20 experts in public health, medicine, epidemiology, and history shared their thoughts on the future during in-depth interview. The scenario that Trump has been unrolling at his daily press briefing, that the lockdowns will end soon, that a protective pill is almost at hand. In the worst case scenario, America is on the trajectory towards 1.1 million deaths. That model envisions the sick pouring into hospitals, overwhelming even makeshift beds in parking lot tents. Doctors would have to make agonizing decisions about who gets scarce resources. Shortages of frontline workers would worsen as they get infected, some dying alongside their patients. Trust in government already 10 years would erode further. In some situations, the USA ran out of some medicines like hydroxychloroquine, which will show result in some immune system. Now the big question is, that will USA, the world's most powerful country and developed nation, and the country with a 99% literacy rate, the mother of MNCs, can retain its position, and can it will bounce back and make the new comeback into world's market? the USA will bother about their population and their masses because they are the backbone of the country. But why their comment shows negligence towards their people in this pandemic situation? The reason is economy and why every country needs economy rather than their people's life, as we can know that USA's GDP is $21.428 trillion. And why can't they declare complete lockdown and use their GDP to save human lives? These all are out of point, but one nation can contain coronavirus spread with fewer deaths by making the our procedure without depending upon people. USA people are known for unity when it comes to a crisis, and currently in the USA, the government raises its hand and makes everyone responsible for the future of the USA population. One should be their only own hope for their lives because neither the vaccine was coming any soon nor the situation in the USA is good. People must restrict themselves and be patient in this pandemic. Whatever it takes, one must be in their limits when they exposed to other, and minimum safety like wearing masks, sanitizing them frequently and maintaining social distance while they are at workplace, and this should be continued so far because the situation and scenario are worse over there. Every people should take it as seriously from the beginning because it's the game with life. Not only their own life, but also they should take care of their contacts, neighbors, and the future of America will be affected, but the effectiveness is based on them. Why top nations failed to contain the COVID-19 spread, how it tries to face the virus. The 2019 novel coronavirus or 2019 NCOV, officially named as COVID-19 pandemic by the WHO or World Health Organization, has spread to more than 180 countries including China. Confirmed novel coronavirus cases increased tenfold in less than a month, from 1 lakh in the first week of March to more than 7 million on 13 June. While more than 4,30,000 deaths have been reported across the world, Europe has become the new epicenter of coronavirus. More than 90% of the global COVID-19 cases are currently outside China. Here is the information for the COVID-19 affected nation. The World Health Organization or WHO has declared the COVID-19 outbreak as a global pandemic on 11 March. The US also declared the outbreak as a public health emergency on 1st February and temporarily banned travel from European nations. Its first death due to COVID-19 on 22nd February, followed by another a day later and 5 more on 24 February. Fatalities have increased significantly since then. Although initially limited to northern Italy, coronavirus later spread to the rest of the country.
The Italian government has implemented various measures to control the pandemic spread, including lockdown, limiting the transport, and closure of public buildings. The Venice Carnival, an annual event, was closed as part of the measures. The first two coronavirus cases in Italy were reported on 30 January 2020. The patients were Chinese tourists who arrived in Rome and are currently placed under isolation in Spallanzani Institute. As an immediate measure, Italy cancelled all direct flights to China and made quarantine mandatory to those traced to have contact with the infected. Educational institutes have been closed as a precautionary measure. Thousands of infected Italians are in intensive care currently. The aged population makes the coronavirus outbreak worse for Italy. And next, Germany. The risk level from coronavirus in Germany has been raised to high as the country struggles to contain the rising number of coronavirus cases. The country announced the nationwide shutdown of all businesses, schools, universities, and venues, as well as a ban on public gathering on 16 March. Germany has also closed its border with other European countries including Austria, Switzerland, France, Luxembourg, and Denmark. The government has announced an economic aid package to businesses to keep them from going bankrupt. The package includes at least Euro 500 billion in loan guarantees and unlimited credit to businesses affected by the outbreak. The government will also make it easy for businesses to access loans from KfW, the State Development Bank, and daily tax payments. Canada, a country with a 100% literacy rate, also does not stop the spread. The first case of coronavirus infection was reported on 25 January 2020 by the government of Ontario in a man who visited Wuhan. The second case was that of a patient's wife and confirmed of having the infection on 27 January 2020. On 28 January 2020, a third case was confirmed by the government of British Columbia in a patient who visited the city of Wuhan. A total of 352 Canadians were on board the Diamond Princess cruise ship, out of whom 43 tested positive. The Canadian government evacuated 129 Canadian nationals and their family members through a chartered plane, which arrived at Canadian Forces Base CFB in Trenton on 21 February. United Kingdom. The first two coronavirus cases in the UK were confirmed on 31 January. The two patients are members of the same family and currently undergoing specialist care by the National Health Services. The latest confirmed case is the Health Minister of the country, Nadine Dorries. An elderly woman with underlying health condition was reported as the country's first death on 5 March. The UK Secretary of State announced new regulation to deal with the prevention of coronavirus infection, which has now been categorized as a serious and imminent threat to public health. China. Coronavirus in China was limited to very few provinces. The highest number of confirmed cases were reported from the Hubei province, where the virus is believed to have originated. The number of coronavirus deaths and cured cases is also the highest in the province. The province reported 14,840 new confirmed cases on a single day. On 12 February, this spike in coronavirus numbers in Hubei occurred after healthcare workers began using a new methodology of CT scan for faster diagnosis of the disease. Nucleic acid tests were used earlier to evaluate suspected cases.
China has started reporting cases confirmed using the new methodology
under the clinically diagnosed category. The number of new cases reported in China, however, declined for the first time since the outbreak on 18 February and reached the lowest in March. China reported the first confirmed case of the coronavirus infection originating in Wuhan in December 2019. The special administrative regions of Macau and Hong Kong reported the first confirmed cases on 22nd January and 23rd January respectively. Japan. The majority of the cases in Japan are reported in Osaka, Hokkaido, Tokyo, Aichi Prefecture, and Nagoya City. Japan was the second country to report a COVID-19 infection outside China on 16 January 2020 in a man who traveled to Wuhan. The first coronavirus death in Japan was reported on 13 February. The death was of a woman in her 80s in Kanagawa Prefecture near Tokyo. A third death was reported on 26 February and a fourth of 27 February. Confirmed cases were reported from a group of tourists aboard the Diamond Princess cruise ship, which was quarantined off Yokohama. A total of 3,711 passengers and crew were on board the cruise ship. Two elderly people, including an 87-year-old man and an 84-year-old woman out of the confirmed cases, died on 20 February. The Japanese health officials allowed passengers who did not exhibit any symptoms of the disease since the beginning of the quarantine period and tested negative for the virus to disembark the ship on 19 February. According to World Pop data, Japan receives the second highest number of travelers from the high-risk Chinese cities affected by the COVID-19. Australia. The Australian government announced a stimulus package of Australian dollar 66.4 billion on 22nd March to protect the country from the economic impact of the coronavirus outbreak. The government will help small and medium-sized companies to underwrite loans and provide cash grants to not-for-profits and small businesses to prevent them from laying off employees. The package will also provide unemployment benefit to employees who are laid off by companies. Further, it will grant people in financial distress with up to Australian dollar 10,000 of tax-free pension funds for the current and next year. This is the second stimulus package announced by the country, which previously announced a Australian dollar 17.6 billion stimulus package on 12 March. The package will provide cash payments to small businesses and welfare recipients. With the two stimulus packages, the country has announced financial measures which are equivalent to approximately 10% of the country's annual gross domestic product. The government of Australia also announced an Australian $2.4 billion health package to set up fewer clinics and offer free online consultation services for people to avoid the spreading of the virus. Confirmed cases have been reported in the regions of Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Tasmania, and Western Australia. 10 of the confirmed cases are evacuees from the Diamond Princess cruise ship. 2 of the patients tested negative in previous diagnosis in Japan. Health authorities are currently testing suspected cases who have shown symptoms of the virus. The first coronavirus infection in Australia was confirmed on 25 January 2020 in a man who travelled from Guangzhou to Melbourne. On 29 January 2020, 2 new cases of the infection were reported, including one in Queensland and another in Victoria. Australia has evacuated its citizens from Wuhan since the outbreak. The citizens who were placed under quarantine in Christmas Island for 14 days were allowed to travel to their homes on 17 February. New Zealand. New Zealand witnessed the first COVID-19 case on 28 February. The first detected was in a man in his 60s who returned from Iran on 26 February. He is currently being treated at Auckland City Hospital. Family members and close contacts of the person have been placed under isolation as a precautionary measure. New Zealand's first coronavirus suspect case was announced on 31st January, but the test turned out to be negative on 1st February as announced by Dr. Ashley Bloomfield, the Director General of Health. The person was suspected of contracting the disease and held in isolation at the Auckland City Hospital. 8 New Zealand citizens were on board the Diamond Princess cruise ship out of Fu who tested positive for the virus. The 6 citizens who tested negative for the virus have been allowed to board an evacuation flight arranged by the Australian government. The remaining 2 passengers who tested positive for the virus were admitted for treatment in Japan. As observing the stats released by the country's official, New Zealand people and government together contain the spread of this deadly virus because there is no new COVID-19 positive case for consecutive 17 days. And it also regarded as the first COVID-19 major affected nation to the COVID-19 free nation. And the situation of India and the USA or United States of America is already discussed above. Recovery rate of COVID-19 victims and how it makes a hope to the world. The first and foremost thing to know is what is recovery rate. The recovery rate is a term used for the rate of recovery status shown by patients infected by COVID-19. The recovery rate of patient is high in some nations and very low in some nations. This depended on people over their immune and their commitment towards this deadly virus. And one thing to observe is that the world's total COVID-19 confirmed case is 78 lakh and over 40 lakh victims had recovered from the deadly coronavirus and 4,30,000 deaths. By seeing these stats, the world's recovery rate is 50 2.8%. At that figure, the rate of recoveries has no other way to go but steadily upwards, unless there is gross mismanagement of the health system. Nevertheless, for the warriors on the front lines and for the people who run the health system in the country, this is one metric that it is a direct measure of success of their interventions. However, it must be remembered that the Indian government revised its discharge policy. However, it must be remembered that the Indian government revised its discharge policy, as have some other nations. No longer does a patient have to test negative twice over 24 hours. Any patient who does not show any symptoms over 3 days is allowed to go home now. And patients who were on critical care require only one negative test to be discharged. Discharge is likely to be followed up with home isolation for 7 days or 2 weeks, with restriction on movement outside the home. Recovery rate in the USA. As US having over 21 lakh confirmed COVID-19 cases, and in this huge number 8 lakh 50,000 recovered cases and 1 lakh 17,000 deaths mean by stats the US has 38% recovery rate and 5.5% fatality rate. So here we can know that what is the reason for USA's current situation, and this based on their containment and their government and people failed to contain the spread. The country with the most recovery rate, Germany, which managed to flatten the curve in a little over a month, has a recovery rate of more than 90%. It is followed by Iran and Italy, some of the earliest countries to become the pandemic epicenter. India is still below the world average of 49.3% by a silver. These are some nations, as we are not able to state every country here. Their country stats will help us in this analysis. Is recovery rate is a thing to cheer? In my views, the answer is yes, because earlier when this virus outbreaks, the recovery rate is not recorded up to this mark. Now, the recovery rate is getting increased, means the whole world is fighting with COVID-19 without giving up. The most immune system plays a major role in recovery rate because one has high immunity will have the most chances of recovery from this infection. On the whole, as the situation is going like this, the recovery rate will increase gradually and will fight against COVID-19 up to a vaccine arrives. But there must be a few deaths. So, for this, we need containment, and one should self-isolate and decrease their activities and movements, and must maintain social distance and must think about other safety also. How the world will get its biggest solution to this pandemic. Even as the countries around the world continue to battle the novel coronavirus, scientists, medical experts, and researchers across the globe are working in unprecedented ways to develop any treatment for COVID-19. The viral contagion is spreading at an exponential rate globally, and as of now, more than 7 million people have been tested positive for the disease. In the absence of any definitive cure, social distancing measures and practicing personal hygiene remains our best bet to protect ourselves. Vaccines work to prime your immune system against future attacks by a particular disease. There are vaccines against both viral and bacterial pathogens or disease-causing agents. When a pathogen enters your body, your immune system generates antibodies to try to fight it off. Depending on the strength of your immune response and how effectively the antibodies fight off the pathogen, you may or may not get sick. Vaccines work because of this function of the immune system. They are made from a killed
weak end or partial version of a pathogen. When you get a vaccine, whatever version of the pathogen it contains isn't strong or plentiful enough to make you sick, but it is enough for your immune system to generate antibodies against it. As a result, you gain future immunity against a disease without having gotten sick. If you are exposed to the pathogen again, your immune system will recognize it and be able to fight it off. This statement tells us that after the vaccine intake, we are virus free, but this will happen only with some sort of vaccine. And no, why aren't all vaccines are effective? Vaccines are designed to generate an immune response that will protect the vaccinated individual during future exposures to the disease. Individual immune systems, however, are different enough that in some cases a person's immune system will not generate an adequate response. As a result, he or she will not be effectively protected against immunization. That said, the effectiveness of most vaccine is high. After receiving the second dose of the MMR vaccine or the standalone measles vaccine, 99.7% of vaccinated individuals are immune to measles. The inactive polio vaccine offers 99% effectiveness after 3 doses. Varicella chickenpox vaccine is between 85% and 90% effective in preventing or varicella infection but 100% effective in preventing moderate or severe chickenpox. The global race for the vaccine is still going. We can expect it at the end of this year, but
The world should face this virus up to then. Process behind vaccine development. Vaccine technology has significantly evolved in the last decade, including the development of several RNA, ribonucleic acid, and DNA vaccine candidates, licensed vectored vaccines, recombinant protein vaccines, and cell culture-based vaccines. Amanat and Kramer point out. However, despite the many advances, including using artificial intelligence to determine potential vaccine candidates, the core principle of ensuring the safety and efficacy of the vaccine for use in humans remain unchanged. While technology might have quickened some of the processes, the trial for the vaccine need to stick by these principles that are time consuming for a reason. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) website, the general stage of the development cycle of a vaccine are exploratory stage, preclinical stage, clinical development, regulatory review and approval, manufacturing, and quality control. If vaccine candidates do make it to the third stage, clinical development is a three-phase process. It says during first phase, small groups of people receive the trial vaccine. In second phase, the clinical study is expanded and the vaccine is given to people who have characteristics such as age and physical health similar to those for whom the new vaccine is intended. In phase 3, the vaccine is given to thousands of people and tested for efficacy and safety. If a vaccine is approved by a licensing agency, then it can move into the manufacturing stage, but constant monitoring of the process and quality control measures must be put in place. Vaccine production should comply with the current good manufacturing practice standards to ensure constant quality and safety of the vaccine. As per WHO's released draft landscape of COVID-19 candidate vaccine, there are 136 competitors in the globe to produce a vaccine for the SARS-CoV-2, generally called COVID-19. But only 10 of them are in clinical evaluation stage, means they are far more than those 126 candidates. In India, there are a lot more ideas to develop, but no one of them is in clinical evaluation stage.
The list of candidate sponsors, trial fees,
and funding is shown in picture. A vaccine would normally take years, if not decades, to develop. Researchers hope to achieve the same amount of work in only a few months. Most experts think a vaccine is likely to become available by mid-2021, about 12 to 18 months after the new virus, known officially as SARS-CoV-2, first emerged. That would be a huge scientific feat, and there are no guarantees it will work. For coronavirus already circulate in human beings. They cause common cold symptoms, and we don't have vaccine for any of them. Different types of masks available in market. Hey dude, wear a mask. Sir, wear a mask and protect yourself. All should wear a mask, and without it, no one should come out. We listen to these words often. We normally take care of ourselves when any crisis or disaster comes, and for this pandemic, the mask is the biggest defense, as wearing a mask will protect you from inhaling of virus, and especially for this COVID-19 transmitted through small droplets from the nose, mouth, which are spread when a COVID-19 patient exhales or coughs. Wearing a face mask will help prevent the spread of infection and prevent the individual from contracting any airborne infection germs. When someone coughs, talks, sneezes, they could release germs into the air that may infect others nearby. Face masks are part of an infection control strategy to eliminate cross-contamination. Now, coming to types of masks available in the market, and briefing about them can guide you people who can wear a mask, and which type of mask can help whom, and which mask can avoid the spread, and so many things you can know when you go through this. And before this, we can go with small process discussion which one should ensure before wearing a mask. How should your face mask be worn? First, always wash your hands with soap and water before touching the face mask. Second, remove the mask from the dispenser or box and make sure the mask do not have any holes or tears. Third, make sure you determine which side is the top and which is the front of the mask so you can properly wear a mask. Fourth, face mask with ear loops. Hold by the ear loops and put the loops around each ear. Fifth, face mask with ties. Bring a mask to your nose and place the ties over your head to secure with a tie. Sixth, face mask with bands. Hold the mask to your nose and pull the top strap over the crown of your head and pull the bottom strap over your head so it's at the nape of your neck. Seventh, pull the mask over your mouth and chin. First, types of mask. First, surgical mask. The most commonly available form of mask in the market, surgical masks are the ones that are slightly loose-fitted around the mouth and used to protect a person against large splashes of droplet, water, sprays, and used in medical facilities. Since they are so popular and cost-effective, they also come in a variety of sizes, colors, and types. There are 2-ply and 3-ply masks available in the market. While they do cover your mouth, surgical masks can't protect you from catching or transmitting the coronavirus or any such microbe in the air, since it has loose caps which can help the germs crawl in. That being said, a high-grade surgical mask can stop the transmission of different kinds of viruses up to 80 to 90%, especially if used by a person who is sick. It can help prevent large particles expelled by the wearer, such as spit or mucus, from entering the environment. If the wearer coughs or sneezes, the surgical mask will help collect the larger particle expelled. Second, N95 and FFP1 mask. also called respirator mask. N95 respirator masks are again widely being used right now
to lessen the spread of coronavirus. It is slightly more tight-fitted and weak-looking, making it a better alternative to surgical mask. Mask with N95 rating filter 95% of particle 0.3 microns or larger in diameter, roughly the size of a single virus, and include PM2.5. Some masks also have an attachment called the exhalation valve which can filter out humidity buildup. They also work drastically better in filtering out and stopping pollutants, viruses, and bacteria from entering the mouth or nasal pathways with an efficiency of 95%. However, they are also slightly more expensive costing wise. Plus, N95 masks need to be fitted and tested beforehand to make it effective. However, they are also slightly more expensive costing wise. Plus, N95 masks need to be fitted and tested beforehand to make it effectively work for you. Compared to all other masks, N95 masks offer the highest level of protection. FFP1 masks are considered an alternative to respiratory masks, such as the N95 ones, while N95 masks safely filter out 95% of the pollutants, viruses, and tiny particles. FFP1 masks protect a person from breathing in particles of most hazardous quality. They are usually also more securely fitted around the nose and the mouth to ensure that toxic or dangerous particles do not enter in. Third, activated carbon mask. As the name suggests, these masks contain an activated carbon filter, which help collect and filter out the pollutants and germs and breathe in purer air. Studies also say that carbon filters present in the mask may even improve your lung capacity and respiratory muscle, making it a good buy if you live in an extremely polluted city. That being said, these masks work very well in fighting pollution and tiny particles like bacteria and fungi which spread through the air we breathe in and thereby prevent allergies. However, they do not work exceptionally well in fighting or preventing viruses like COVID-19 from coming in contact. They can only trap a minuscule number of virus 10 to 20% and hence may not be the best choice right now. Fourth, cloth or sponge mask. Over the recent weeks, with an acute shortage of mask supply in the market and lack of protective gear available, many are turned to homemade masks made out of different fabric like cloth or sponge. While homemade masks do not match the effectiveness, they are better than having nothing on hand to fight the spread of germs, especially during a pandemic situation like this. Simply put, homemade masks offer lesser protection than surgical or respirator masks. However, as the CDC guidelines read, they can help a person keep the face area clean and prevent the spread of nasty germs and other contagious viruses. Sanitization and disinfecting are crucial steps that can prevent and stop the spread of coronavirus. Cloth and sponge masks filter out about 50% of bacteria and dust pollutants. How effectively they work in fighting viruses is still under study. Please note, using a homemade mask is a preventive mask which comes in handy during urgent times and should not be solely dependent on as a form of defense. I hope you got the information required by you and go and decide your need. Still need assistance to select masks to protect you and your family? Subscribe to my channel for more needy information. various types of tests to check whether we infected with this most prevailing virus. Now, in this time, the single hope for all government of all countries to contain the spread of COVID-19 is to increase the speed of testing samples, and every day they should reach maximum limit, means day by day the testing of samples should be increased. Viral tests check samples from your respiratory system to tell you if you currently have an infection with SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. Some tests are point-of-care tests, meaning result may be available at the testing site in less than an hour. Other tests must be sent to laboratory to analyze, a process that takes 1 to 2 days once received by the lab. In India, so far 56,58,614 samples out of 135 crore population have been tested up to this day, which is 0.4% of our total population. And when we see the testing number of the USA, they tested 2 crore 32 lakh 90,000 out of 33 crore 10 lakh, which is 6.2% of their total population. While the mentioned stats, one should get a point that India is a country with a massive population and USA is having comparatively less population. And the catch here is, in the USA is very ahead and make rapid testing to find who is having COVID-19 and who is not having it. As it was world's most economical country, it can make more testing and even faster than all other nations because they have adequate amounts of material to make rapid testing. But whereas coming to India, this was the second most populous country in the world, and at the earlier stage, India does not have minimum support and back for testing, as there are only 2 testing centers early. But India had made very quick reflex and increases its virology centers and testing centers, as it results to 1,50,000 samples tested in a single day. And while coming to testing techniques, types, here we are. 2 kinds of tests are available for COVID-19: viral test and antibody test. A viral test tells you if you have a current infection. An antibody test tells you if you had a previous infection. An antibody test may not be able to show if you have a current infection because it can take 1 to 3 weeks after infection to make antibodies. We do not know yet if having antibodies to the virus can protect someone from getting infected with the virus again, or how long that protection might last. An antibody test is a screening for things called antibodies in your blood. Your body makes these when it fights infection like COVID-19. The same thing happens when you get a vaccine like a flu shot. That's how you build immunity to a virus. You may also hear it called serology test. The antibody test isn't checking for the virus itself. Instead, it's looked to see whether your immune system, your body's defense against illness, has responded to the infection. You will have to give some blood, like through a finger prick. Doctor tests for 2 kinds of antibodies to SARS-CoV-2. They look for IgM antibodies, which develop early in an infection, and IgG antibodies, which are more likely to show up later after you have recovered. It takes your body about 4 weeks to develop IgM antibodies, but scientists aren't sure how long it will take this to happen with SARS-CoV-2. More tests are needed to find out. The diagnostic testing field for COVID-19 is rapidly evolving and improving in quality every day, with many tests focused on diagnosing patients with active viral infection. Diagnostics able to detect current active infections are typically molecular-based diagnostics,
which inform researchers of the presence of the pathogen either by identifying its genetic material or identifying unique markers of the pathogen itself. The viral genomic material for SARS-CoV-2 is ribonucleic acid or RNA, which remains in the body only while the virus is still replicating. There are also rapid antigen tests in development that act by detecting specific surface markers on the outside of the virus. None of these tests have received FDA emergency use authorization or EUA, nor are any available on the market at this time. Molecular diagnostic usually requires samples from the patient that is likely to contain a virus such as nasopharyngeal swabs or sputum samples. Some pathogen may also be detected in feces, urine, or blood. For respiratory diseases like COVID-19, nasopharyngeal swabs have been considered to be most reliable as they sample an area of the respiratory tract where the virus appears to first infect an individual. This site is relatively easy accessed compared to the final site of viral infection, the lower respiratory tract. Consequently, the nasopharyngeal tract likely have first active virus replication and second sufficient amount of virus to be detected in kids. Many tests now available or in development can use saliva or nasal swabs that facilitate easier sampling procedure for healthcare providers and patients. Results: if you test positive for COVID-19 by a viral test, know what protective steps to take if you are sick or caring for someone. If you test negative for COVID-19 by a viral test, you probably were not infected at the time your samples was collected. However, that does not mean you will not get sick. The test result only means that you did not have COVID-19 at the time of testing. If you test positive or negative for COVID-19, no matter the type of test, you still should take preventive measures to protect yourself and others. Summarizing the whole concept with little conclusion. The whole world is fighting against this infection, but the biggest challenge is will the world nations get able to stop this pandemic situation and regain its position by bouncing back upon challenges. Will it and will we make it to the end? We must make it, and otherwise we end up by that deadly virus. And now it's time for some ongoing improvements for the COVID-19 in India. First, ICMR increased their capacity to test the samples day by day, and initially India is only managed to test 1,000 samples per day, but now we are testing 1,50,000 samples in 24 hours. I think this is a major step towards stopping COVID-19 in India because we should test people as the COVID-19 is asymbiotic nowadays. Second, lockdown was not announced because of fear of economic loss, as we can't oppose the government's decision because the economy is also important to regain and fight against COVID-19. Third, although containment zones have existed, the movement over there is still the same, as we should maintain some serious attention towards it. Fourth, and nowadays one term is getting more circulated: herd immunity. Get a look into this. Herd immunity happens when so many people in a community become immune to an infectious disease that it stops the disease from spreading. This can happen in two ways. Many people contact the disease and in time build up an immune response to it. Natural immunity. Many people are vaccinated against the disease to achieve immunity. Herd immunity can work against the spread of some disease.
There are several reasons why it often works. There are also many reasons why herd immunity won't yet work to stop or slow the spread of SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, the disease caused by an infection of the new coronavirus. Fifth, an WHO official said that herd immunity will work in India because the recovery rate here is reached to 50%. That means in India, people are going to face in a small note herd immunity is when we were going to cold places, we will feel cold and shivering, cough cold may come. But if you stay there for 1 to 2 months, your immune system will habit to that place as like that if in India maximum people exposed to COVID-19, then their immune system can make them fight against the virus. Sixth, implementation of herd immunity may work or not, as there is no current lockdown in India and no plans of extended lockdown. It looks like some sort of idea, but we should ready for everything and we must individually face the COVID-19 not along with comment nor with the whole country. Seventh, as soon as possible we will have vaccine, but up to that we must live with the virus all around us. And as we told already earlier here that one who is going out and exposing to COVID-19 it should take the whole responsibility. Eighth, sanitizer, mask, PPE kits, facial kits, all these can avoid getting infected. These are the precautionary measures to take ourselves from getting infected, and if we really worried about ourselves, then these things can help you, but all must be done accurately to be safe. Recently, N95 mask prices have been decreased and there is the availability of sanitizers and kits which are necessary. Follow the WHO guidelines and make yourself contained.
Ninth, moreover, the testing to be done to not only persons with symptoms but also people involved in cluster of an infected patients. As observed, in some states there are very less number of samples tested like Telangana in India. By this state, only 30,000 samples have been tested and various other neighbor states performed tests to nearby 6 lakh. So, this type of plan, ideas and decision must be ignored and rapid testing should be implemented all over the country. Because a person can show the symptoms in 2 to 14 days if he or she does not being tested in that 14 days. In the worst case, he or she will make more activities, so this result in more spread. 11th, and finally, this pandemic situation is not going to end any coming soon. So everyone must take care of his or her own and the people in their cluster. And mainly, everyone must take it as seriously. Don't fool yourself after getting infected. Take the measures, precautions, strictly follow the orders of government, and please avoid gatherings, meetings, and any visit to temples, etc. And this is the worst situation we and our country and the world facing this virus. So be safe and make a safer environment. So thank you guys. If you found this video useful, hit like, share and subscribe to our channel Nutramite. And don't forget to hit the bell icon.
Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell icon for important notifications and videos.